Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Record of Sword Forged Worlds, a unofficial Sword World podcast. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me I have two of my good brothers here in the temple. We have the man who is but a letter, Good Brother A.
I am, in fact, alive.
And the man losing arguments with himself, Good Brother Hydra.
And one of those arguments been, which came first, the Hydra or the egg?
The answer is yes. But we are back once again. This time, after delving a little bit into things like the classes and the magic systems, and a bit of a foray into the weird worlds outside of Raxia, we are back on the mechanics side of things. Now, some of you may recall that I did a two-parter when we were covering the 1.0 era called The Origin of 2D6. This is meant to be the sequel to that in what I call Refine of 2D6, where we're going into the player-facing and GM-facing mechanics. Now, because the core rules are spread across 3 books, that does make things a little bit tricky, but still doable. Especially since the main thing that we're going to be covering on the player-facing side is character creation and the fellows. I had thought about covering the fellows on the GM-facing side, but given what fellows are meant to be, I decided, you know what, let's cover it here. In addition to that, after we cover this particular part, we will have an intermission where we are going to be going into what the direction for the podcast is going to be for the coming weeks. But I think obviously the first spot to start is, much like with 1.0, the core mechanic is going to revolve around rolling 2d6. You're going to be rolling 2d6, or in some cases 1d6. And that is the only thing you're ever rolling. Either 1 6-sider or 2 6-siders. Nothing, no other die. We're not dealing with a full polyhedral affair. We're just dealing with that. Which I'd say is going to make things a little bit approachable.
It's much easier to grab a pair of Monopoly dice set than it is to try to get a full set of the standard dice sets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, folks like us, we're going to have multiple sets of the full thing because we are dice goblins.
Yeah,
Correction?
I don't have 5 pounds of dice or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But now there are 2 forms of character creation. There's the simple version, which is just take one of the pre-gens, give yourself a name, boom, done. Or there's the full scratch version. Obviously, for this, we're covering the full scratch version. And
It'd be a pretty short episode if we went with the simple.
Yeah. And to further hammer home the point, much like I did with when we covered 1.0, I'm going to break out the character sheet for 2.5, and we are going to try and work that out. Let's see. I think okay, this one will be the one we'll use. I have multiple editable character sheets. mainly the default one, and then ones that were made by other people that are a bit more detailed. And for some of the parts of this, I'm gonna need one of you to roll for me because I can't do it myself.
Hold on, let me find some dice.
Which I will do as soon as I'm able to. Oh, there we go. I was trying to move the PDF into my other window. So first things first. We'll probably roll on the history table, but we'll do that in a bit. We'll do that a bit later. But the first step is, of course, defining the persona. But
No,
first we need to pick race and background. So
Also, disclaimer: we're not talking about Atlas's persona. That's a different thing.
I already covered the two Mega 10 RPGs I have a while ago. I may revisit 200X because I do think I should cover the expansions. But the first step is race and background, and for the purpose of this, we already covered races, but one thing we didn't cover is that each race has a set of backgrounds that you either pick or are rolled randomly. The background gives you a level in a certain class sometimes, as well as your starting values for skill, body, and mind, and your starting experience. Of course, it also determines what die you're going to roll for the ability score generation, but we'll get to that in a minute. So, for the sake of our sanity, we'll only use the races that were in Core Rulebook 1, which is Human, Elf, Dwarf, Tablet, Runefolk, Nightmares, and Lycant. Of those races, which should we go with?
How about we pick one at random?
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So one of you is going to have to roll a d8. If it rolls an 8, roll it again.
Just a moment. Two.
All right. So Elf it is. And since we go with Elf, we get 2 racial abilities: Dark Vision and Sword's Grace Gentle Water. Dark Vision is exactly what you think it is, although I'd say Dark Vision is used a little bit more restrained here than it is in, say, 5e, where everybody and their mother and their baby's mama has Dark Vision.
I mean, that's mostly because each race is supposed to have its own version of Dark Vision, but Wizards that out because
because, you know, actually coming up with mechanics that are creative is well, anybody who's doing that is not working for Wizards first party.
No, they're not.
Yeah, you know, like God forbid you have all the Underdark races have the thermal vision like they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm. But no, we have to simplify everything to either low light or dark vision.
And blind sense. Or blind sight?
Mm-hmm.
I can't correct you on that. I pretty much have avoid everything that's coming out of WotC anyway.
But for those who don't recall, Gentle Water when we covered, when we covered the races, it basically means that elves can move freely underwater as well as hold their breath for an hour. They can also talk underwater, meaning they can cast spells while underwater.
Oh, ironic how the classical pointy ear race are now effectively part fish.
Mm-hmm. But they also get a bit of resistance to poison and disease type effects. So with the choice of background, should we pick it or should we roll it? And there are multiple background tables, but I'm primarily using the one that's in Core Rulebook 1 for the purposes of this.
Let's just roll it.
All right, I need one of you to roll me 2d6.
7.
7. So we have the background of Conjurer. Which means we have the Conjurer, which means we get the Conjurer class at level 1. Which also means we're going to get the first level Conjurer spells, but I'll deal with that later. So we have 9, 4, and 13 for skill, body, and mind. And we have 2,500 experience. Actually, no, not 2,500, 2,000 experience. So, just from that alone, I think you can see that actually, I'll hold off on that because the next part is ability scores, and the approach how this is done is you're rolling a set of die to represent your correction of A through F, and this is added to either skill, body, or mind to determine your 6 ability scores. Those ability scores are modified by 6 to see what their modifier is. Now, one might think, wait, 6 is the dividing modifier and not every other point? That seems a little bit low. Because of the growth system, which we'll get to later, it's not really. So, since we're dealing with elf, I'm gonna give a certain number of die I want you to roll, and you tell me the result. We're going from top to bottom.
All right.
2d6.
3.
2d6 again.
8.
All right. 1d6.
5.
All right. 2d6.
7.
All right. 2d6 again.
10.
And 2d6 again.
7.
Okay. So that means we
That sounds
have
like A pretty even spread.
Mm-hmm. So I have a dexterity of 12, a agility of 17, a strength of 9, a vitality of 11, a intelligence of 23, and a spirit of 20.
That is a pretty decent spread.
Yeah. So I think you can see here. I think you can see here that your choice of race has a lot of impact.
As it should.
Like a lot of times in games, your choice of race gives you a little bit of a modifier at the start, but once you're a few levels in, your race doesn't really matter. That is not the case here. And because of the... So the modifiers, which I just put in, are 2, 2, 1, 1, 3, and 3, respectively. Which again doesn't sound like much, but because of things we'll get into in a minute, that's not exactly going to be the case.
Well, yeah. It actually makes sense that what the modifiers, at least on the surface, it may look tiny because we are just using 2d6 rather than a straight up d20, so even just a +2 is a significant boon.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So after that is classes. Now we already have the first level of Conjurer for free, and we have 2,000 experience points to spend on major and minor classes. So and remember, getting first level in a major class costs 1,000. For a minor, 500. But and it is generally advisable to have 2 levels of a warrior or wizard type class and 1 level in a other type. As well as the fact that warrior type classes don't mix.
Well, if we're gonna be going that, I probably would recommend, like, say, 1 level in a fencer. No, not... Yeah, fencer.
Were you thinking 1 level in fencer and 2 levels in conjurer?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So,
I guess we're making Weiss Shini.
Not quite. Unless mostly because we're building it around a character who isn't just I was gonna say one note, but that's the problem with every character that Miles and Carrie bring in. Either one note or wasting my time.
I still can't believe. I still can't believe they're getting a new season.
I would have been optimistic about it if it weren't for the fact that Miles and Carrie are back.
I pretty much just stopped caring about Ruby after Monty died.
But taking 1 level in Conjurer and 1 level in Fencer means we have 500 XP left. That isn't enough to level up Fencer, but it's enough to get another minor class.
Right, if I'm not mistaken, hunters do spiritualism magic, right?
Yes. And while you're doing that, let me... The only races in TML-RPG is humans and Dragonborn. What are you talking about, Brian? I'm not quite sure what you mean by TML-RPG.
The world's most litigious role-playing game.
Ah. In that case, because everybody wants to be a special-ass snowflake, nobody picks human in that game.
But I pick human for the extra feet.
Or you have the people who make fun of you for picking human fighter.
I mean, like we all know the meme of like the human fighter holding his own against the 3 like major characters in Elder Scrolls Online.
Like seriously, the human fighter isn't that the primus just about every shonen fantasy protag? Well, maybe not the Kazuya.
I'd say a lot of them are gishes, but the point is that martial characters in the fantasy gaming discourse get a lot of disrespect. But what did you have in mind for the remaining 500 XP? They said that's enough to buy a extra minor class.
Well, I'm tempted between either you throw in Sage, or you keep those extra 500s for a later date, so that you could pretty much go ahead and get another level up sooner rather than later.
Well, for the purposes of this, I'd say, especially since you don't carry over XP that you don't spend here.
Oh, so,
well, if that's
yeah,
okay, so
Sage.
might as well. I mean, Conjurers are already pretty support class. Might as well throw in a little bit of brains while you're at it.
Yep, which also means the knowledge check is 4. 1 for your levels in Sage, and 3 more for your intelligence modifier.
+4 on 2d6, that's not bad.
Oh. So then there's language acquisition. So because of we do automatically get speaking and reading Arcana because of being a conjurer. We get Elven for, well, being an elf. And we get to pick one more language because we took 1 level in Sage. We can either read or write an additional language. Also, I will note that I do enjoy the fact that there is a spot just for regional dialects.
Like, that is nice. You don't see that in a lot of, at least, Western RPGs, unless it's one of those really old.
Well, a lot of people just go, oh, we all speak Common or Basic. And yeah, trade languages are always going to be a thing. But I think it's an underrated concept to have regional dialects because that's something we already have in the real world. Like, imagine taking a French Canadian and having them try and listen to Creole French and try and understand it.
That would be funny.
It would be funny, not for the person listening, because they'd have long stretches of "What the fuck did you just say?" But as far as the additional language, oh. I am thinking that this particular elf can speak Dwarven.
Given how tight to the hips all the major races are anyway, it makes sense that she probably knows how to speak to dwarf.
And I know one might say, wait, elves and dwarves learning each other's languages, that's heresy. In some settings, that might be the case. Not here. Especially when there are...
friendly.
The elf-dwarf rivalry is not nearly as pronounced as it is in, say, Warhammer Fantasy. Or even the Elder Scrolls.
Oh, dude.
Although, to be fair, everyone hates the Altmer.
Yeah.
I mean, even Pancras no works can't get through in his support to the Altmer.
No, but we can support Eleanor Whitestrake. You know, the guy whose whole career was basically the existence of casual racism implies the existence of competitive racism, and I intend to win.
I mean, sometimes you gotta go big.
He sounds like my grandpa.
But after that is a choice of combat feat. Combat feats are similar to feats in more standard fantasy games. The big thing about them is that you only get one at every odd-numbered adventure level. Now, since we have Conjurer in 2, that means our character's adventure level is 2. This is also why trying to set up adventures for X level characters is difficult in something like Sword World, because saying you have a party of adventure level 5 characters doesn't tell you a whole lot.
Well, we know it could be 5 in one class and 4 or less in every other.
You could be 5 in a major or 5 in a minor. Adventure level is just equivalent to the highest level class that you have. But
okay,
as far as a combat feat, I think since we're dealing with Conjurer, who leans more towards support, I'm thinking metamagic targets. Which just means you can spend more MP to add additional targets to your spells.
I mean, why not to go ahead and cast a protect on at least the front lines?
But then comes equipment, which I think things like a magic implement are going to be vastly important, as well as an adventurer set. But the starting amount of money that you have is 1,200 gamels, and that's gamels, not gold or gil.
It's always nice when settings comes up with their own currency as opposed to just the standard sort.
Mm-hmm. So, and when it comes to, the when it comes to weapons, each of the individual weapon types have their own particular theming that they have going on. Axes tend to be very strong, but they also especially at higher tiers aren't the best at critting. Like, a lot of the higher tier axes have a crit threshold of 11. Bows and crossbows are what you would expect. Though the main thing when it comes to these weapons is obviously needing ammo, but also there's the matter of range. Most of them were, up until the higher tier, most of them are going to have a range of about 20 to 30 meters. But the full weapon types you have available is axes, bows, crossbows, flails, guns, innate weapons, maces, spears, staves, swords, thrown weapons, warhammers, and wrestling. Some of them have their own requirements. Innate weapons are only for heritors, because they're tied to the innate parts of Barbarous. Guns can only be used by artificers, and wrestling weapons can only be used by grapplers or battle dancers. And proficiency is divided into 4 grades: B, A, S, SS. In order to use anything above B rank, you need to have a feat. You need to have the combat feat to do it. And when it comes to armor, it's just metallic and non-metallic. So if we were to give this character armor, we would want to go with non-metallic armor, since wearing metallic armor puts a -4 penalty on spellcasting checks.
You're also going to need a magical implement to be able to cast spells as well.
Mm-hmm. Which you can put a magic implement can be a ring, or it can be it can be something you hold in the hand, or you can turn a weapon into a magic implement if you're willing to spend some extra gamel. Though I would say one particular item that if even though it is expensive, but it is worth it if you can get a hold of it, is a monocoat. A monocoat grants defense equal to your intelligence modifier. And I should note defense is soak. Evasion is your ability to, well, not get hit. Also, I do love that one of the non-metallic armors is a combat maid / butler outfit.
I mean, like you gotta have that as a choice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a setting with plenty of waifus, so of course you gotta dress them up.
Or dress yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
That too.
Yep.
It would be pretty funny to be able to kick some ass while wearing a butler's outfit.
Mm-hmm. But because of the fact that we have Fencer, we can take a melee weapon. The catch with Fencer is that your requirements are as far as what you can use is lowered. Because what really determines what you can equip is your strength compared to the minimum strength requirement of a given weapon. And because on the other hand, you do get a expanded crit range when you do it. That's kind of to offset the fact that you can get Fencer as a minor class instead of a major. So it's a case where you have a higher crit chance, but you are very limited in terms of what you can use compared to a fighter or a battle dancer.
Remind me, how much strength does our character have?
9.
No strength, got it.
So there are some weapons you can get that are pretty low in that kind of thing. For the sake of this, we'll go with a quarterstaff. A quarterstaff that will focus as our magic implement, which means we're spending about 240 gamel on it.
Well, there's a polearm brain rot.
So that's a two-handed weapon with a minimum strength of 4, so we do qualify. So the base accuracy for weapons is your dexterity modifier plus a warrior class. So in this case, let's see, dexterity is 2, so our base accuracy is 3. And as far as extra damage, that is based on strength. So that's 2. So not exactly hitting hard. And this particular staff has a power of 14, as well as a total accuracy of 4. So accurate, but not Not exactly going to be the strongest hitter. And
That's usually the trade-off: accuracy, over power.
And it's a good thing that Fencer was picked because the crit value of the staff is 12.
Which,
I mean,
let's be
he's-
frank, on 2d6, getting a 12 is much more doable than trying to roll a 20.
Mhm. There's actually because of the fact that it's going to skew towards 7, there's a lower chance of getting crits on boxcars. But in terms of armor, as mentioned, non-metallic armor is the way to go. Probably going with well, because of the strength requirements, we have to go with soft leather armor. Because hard leather armor requires 13 strength. Soft leather only requires 7. Doesn't provide a bonus to evasion, does provide a bonus of 3 to defense. So we can take a little bit of hits, but we're still very squishy.
I mean, we're a mage first and foremost, so it's not as if we're going to be in the front lines.
And this is as good a spot as any to calculate some of the secondary effects. So first off, monster knowledge, which is one of the big things that people will pick Sage for. Because by rolling well enough on monster knowledge, you can determine what a monster is, as well as what its weak points are. And the weak point has to be exposed before you can take advantage of it, no matter what. So monster knowledge, in our case, is Sage levels plus intelligence mod, so that's 4. Initiative, because we don't have any levels in Scout, is 0. The normal move, i.e. how many meters you can move in a round, is once again based on agility, so that's 2 for a normal move, and 6 meters for a full move. Let's see, base evasion is built to evasion, which is your ability to not get hit. And what you're going to be rolling when someone tries to hit you is Fencer plus agility, so that is 3. Now adventure level is 2, I already mentioned that. Fortitude and willpower are the main stats that you use for resisting things like poisons or spells. A lot of physical effects are resisted by fortitude, a lot of magical effects are resisted by willpower. They're also used for death checks. But the former is based on vitality and adventure levels, so in that case, it's 3. And willpower is the same, but using spirit. Which, in that case, we have a fortitude of 3 and a willpower of 5. And as far as HP and MP, HP is equal to vitality plus the total number of adventure levels times 3. Now, when they say vitality, they mean the vitality score, not the modifier. So
Okay.
vitality is 11 for this character.
Times 3, that's actually pretty nice.
It's vitality score plus adventure level times 3. So we have 17 HP. Whereas Spirit, we start with 20, and it's the total levels in all magical classes times 3, which means we have 26 MP, because we have 2 levels in Conjurer. Let me... Now, as far as the more nitty-gritty parts of equipment, that's beyond the scope of this stream. And when it comes to magic power, that is always the wizard levels plus intelligence modifier. In our case, that's 4. So when think of magic power as the attack stat for casting. And I think the last thing would be a name. So any ideas as far as the name when it comes to this experiment?
Given we're trying to name an elf, not particularly.
The only names I'm coming up with is team name, and I don't think anybody would hear them.
Oh. It's times like these I'm glad that we have fantasy name generator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's... I don't feel like going with one of the more obtuse ones. So from the ones that were generated by that site, I'm going with Aquilin.
Alright, that's definitely elvish enough.
But that more or less covers character creation. Like when it comes to the first 2 levels of Conjurer, we already covered the spell list.
Yeah, there's no need to go over that again.
Yeah. Because we have 2 levels in Conjurer, we get Dark Mist, Enchant Weapon, Protection, Spark, Command Doll, Counter Magic, Earth Heal, and Fanaticism.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't this also Conjure the classes that could make golems or undead?
Yeah. You don't get that until level 3.
I mean, you're fairly close.
But now, of course, when it comes to fellows, that was a new concept that was brought up. The idea with fellows was a way so that people can have their characters participate even if they're not able to make that session. A fellow turns the character into a soft AI chart. And let me grab an example for you guys so you can see what the action chart for a fellow looks like.
Is that in core rulebook 1 or 2? I forget.
Fellows, as far as the The rules for fellows, that's in Core Rulebook 1 on page 193. But here's one I can go with. So I put one example of a fellow in the side chat for you guys. Fellows are a simplified version of characters.
Oh, it's kind of like companions or henchmen in the Unspeakable TTRPG.
I'd put them more in the vein of the trusts that you see in FF11 and 14.
Okay.
Because the idea is first off, fellows cannot be targeted in combat. Second, you have their base setup, classes, languages, adventure level. MP is still tracked, HP isn't. As well as whether or not any experience that they gain is carried over into the full character, as well as any rewards. But you also have what's known as the Fellow Action Table, and there is a basic version of it and an expanded version. The main difference is the expanded version just has more rows.
Okay.
So, first off, you have the 1D column, which determines what action you're going to take. Then the result column, where you're doing that action as if you made a die result of that amount. So, for example, with the one that I sent you, the second ability, Earthly Domain Quicksand, that is treated as if you did that action and rolled an 8.
That's actually a rather nice system.
And then after that is the value. Which can be used as the result of a 2d6 roll. It's basically the sum, like the first column that you saw, that is for the result column. That's a standard for the 2d6. The value total is what is for the total amount, what the game calls the success value.
Okay.
The latter one, if you're making your own fellow, is not already preset. And of course, the last part is any effects, and that's more or less how fellows work. Some modules have their own fellows, which have their XP set, but you can create a fellow. And while there's guidelines for particular actions, it's not like there's this is what you should fill in if you're using this ability. Especially since a lot of fellows have their setups to be built around either multiple attack actions or some combination of action and combat feat. And just as a case in point, the combat feat that we picked earlier, Metamagic Targets. the way that works is a spell that targets one character or one object can target an additional one. But every time you use this meta magic, you multiply the MP cost of the spell. So 2 targets, you're spending twice the amount of MP. 3 targets, you're spending 3 times the amount of MP, and so on. You don't have to make the spell casting check more than once, though. And that whole multiplying the MP cost, that's pretty much how all meta magic effects work.
It doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
Heaven forbid, I definitely wouldn't mind that effectively increasing the cost as opposed to just cutting the effects in half.
Mm-hmm. Which ends up working out in the fact that comparing the amount of MP you have with the cost of spells, spells can appear deceptively cheap. A bigger part of the cost is when you start using meta magic to bump it up. And when you do that, that's when having things like mana stones are going to be important. Because remember, mana stones are basically a magic battery.
Okay, I'm seeing how important mana stones are for people that really want to be Timothy spellcaster.
Mm-hmm. They're also heavily important for people who pick Enhancer, because while Enhancer's abilities use MP, you don't get, it's not a wizard type class, so you don't get additional MP leveling it up. On the other hand, all of their effects always cost only 3 MP. So you do have those sort of trade-offs that you have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to skills, there isn't really skills in the usual sense. What you have are the 4 skill packages, which depending on your choice of class, you'll end up leveling in some form. These are technique, movement, observation, and knowledge. Now, even with that, you can only use them in certain ways, based on the class that you picked. But technique is built on your dexterity modifier. Movement is based on agility. Observation is based on intelligence, and knowledge is also based on intelligence. The 2 main classes that are going to be giving out proficiency in this skill the most obviously are Scout and Ranger. There's also the fact that at the end of each adventure, in addition to getting reputation points and using that to get either exclusive equipment or be a higher adventurer grade, you have a growth setup that you do. Basically, you roll 2d6 and pick one of them. The corresponding number that you picked, you increase that ability score by 1.
Okay.
So, and that more or less covers a lot of what's involved in character creation. One other factor I do want to cover is in regard to accessories and magic items in general. Oftentimes there is a popularity value to items. that is a check. That is basically a appraisal check. If you meet it, you can get you can understand it. Depending on the era, it might be easier or more difficult to understand what the item is. Or, worst case scenario, you can just give it to a appraiser to do that job for you. You just have to pay up. But for when it comes to certain healing items, there are special herbs that rangers are going to be better at because the levels in ranger can be used as a bonus to make herbs more effective. So as far as the question of do rangers suck? No, not in this game they don't.
Yeah, it's almost like they took something from the druid and give it to the ranger.
So, rangers add their dex mod plus class level for herbs, and class level plus intelligence mod for potions.
Okay.
Though for some of their skill checks, you don't want to for a ranger, for instance, you don't want to be wearing metal armor because it puts a -4 penalty on some of their movement or technique package checks.
After all, they're playing a ranger, not a paladin.
Mm-hmm. So you can kind of see how this thing works, but based on what I've described so far, what do you think of how character creation and fellows work?
Actually, it was a pretty simple and straightforward. It was. How should I put this? Not very difficult to go ahead and create a character from scratch.
No,
Pretty much.
It's what? Just a handful of rolls.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the idea of the fellow, but I kind of feel like the player and GM would have to sit down and set up a fellow sheet before they start using it.
They would, but there's a lot of sample guidance given in just Core Rulebook 1 alone about potential actions you could do for fellows and the guidelines for it. So it's not like you're being thrown to the wolves.
Okay.
It's also a nice way how to GMs could probably also create special guest characters as well.
Yeah, and several of the modules do that. Now, fellows were a thing that was introduced primarily in 2.5. They weren't a thing in 2.0. But, like I said, it's not difficult to carry one into the other.
Mm-hmm.
But I know this was a short episode, but I wanted to focus on that side of things because next week we're going to be getting into the 3 different combat systems that Sword World has, as well as some other bits regarding equipment and the way monsters work, because there are some unique things with monsters that I don't see a whole lot of games doing. Not just in this in the space of fantasy gaming, but just period.
Like, let's be frank, it would be nicer to just have monsters be more than just, here's a monster, go ahead and beat it up.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, there's some interesting stuff to delve into. But that will do it for this particular episode. I know this was a short one, but consider this the calm before the storm. So,
So when the character creation is this bloody simple, I mean, it's actually pretty good to get newcomers in because you just sit down and you could already be done within an hour.
Mm-hmm. Of course. So, until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. May your adventures be grand and your treasures myriad. Stay frosty.
Until next time, everyone.
Catch you later.